Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. I wanted to just preface this webinar with one point. Typically, what occurs on Friday mornings is Ryan Hayes, who's our head of product development, will get on the call and probably talk for about 15 to 20 minutes as regards to updates to the application. As I mentioned earlier, Ryan Hayes is not here today, and we thought we'd do something slightly different today, and my assumption is it's going to take about 10 to 12 minutes. It's not going to be a very long presentation, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you folks sort of what one of the apparatuses of Engage121, or one of the features of Engage121, which is fairly critical, is the analytics side of it. You know, as you the folks who are on this call have done, I'm sure, is sort of try to determine what the value of your social efforts are, and not just determine the value of what your social efforts are, but determine what course of action you may want to take. The suite of resources available in Evaluate with an Engage121 are fairly critical to doing just that. And as it relates to being able to build either business or use cases to not just yourself, but to management on a go forward, it's essential to make sure that you're leveraging the resources that exist within Evaluate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you guys a few reminders on what it is that's happening in Evaluate. Again, sort of highline look at what some of the value points may be. So again, one of the things that I like to communicate often is if I am defining a business purpose for my marketing effort, it obviously makes it a lot easier for me to speak about it intelligently, not only to management for purposes of reporting on an application that we have purchased, but also on the side of how has this defined our program, our marketing plan, our promotion, whatever it is. If the business purposes have been defined, it's going to be a heck of a lot easier to have those discussions. So certainly in any analytics study, I would suggest that in order for you to even utilize any of these resources, those business purposes need to be defined. And by those business purposes, you know, let's look at some of the analytic data that we could look at through Engage121. Now again, very small sampling of it, but these are questions that I typically go through with clients, and what I would say to you is, as easy as some of these questions may seem, and I won't read through all of these, but as simple as these may seem, like where are your customers, Facebook, Twitter, Yelp, what content excites your community. I know those sound like fairly easy questions, and maybe the folks on this webinar can answer them, but I can tell you a lot of folks can't. And even if you can, there is always more studying to do. I know for the brand or brands that you folks support, there's multi-tier content support, right? So there's different tiers you're communicating to. There's different customer levels you're communicating to. Maybe it's a B2B situation, and there's another tier where the communication string changes dramatically, and thus the content string changes dramatically. I would suggest to you that these very easy questions that can be asked are sometimes not so easy to answer. And I would certainly say that there's not a question being asked here and many more that can be dealt with and can be advised and can be previewed and can be built through Engage121's Evaluate section. So let's run through a few samples. Not to, again, I promise I won't be labor Evaluate to the point where you become bored of it, but essentially I'd like you to just understand where some of the value can come from. And here's a really simple first example. Learn where your customers are talking about you. Again, a very easy brand mention chart to create that you can create within Engage121, but a very critical chart. Let's just define marketing mix for a second as it relates to social media. If you take a look at the bottom of that chart that you're seeing there, you have Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, reviews, blogs, and social media. You know, you may step into social media and say, well, we're a service-based business, and everything that's important to us is on Yelp. And that may be your position, and your position may be that in order for us to be successful in the social media, we're going to have to define what our Yelp is, what our Yelp comments are, what our Yelp locations are looking like, what type of comments we're threading through there. Well, that's great, but you may find out very quickly, 3 months into developing a chart, that you're not being heavily addressed on Yelp. Maybe you're being heavily addressed on another rating and review site, or maybe, just maybe, Twitter is the breadwinner. It just may happen, and not only may it happen, but we see it happen all the time. People have a defined thought process as it relates to social platforms and their value. I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone said to me, well, we're getting into it, we need to be on Facebook. Well, I probably wouldn't disagree with 99% of the time when someone says that. You absolutely need to be on Facebook. But that may not be one of the main value points that the customers you're trying to address consider valuable. And a simple chart like this can define that for you. Again, very simple exploration here that I'm showing you. Compare your fans and followers. So compare my Facebook audience to my Twitter audience. There is so much to parse when you're looking at the audience of Facebook and Twitter, and obviously understanding the dynamics of both of those social channels are vastly different. That being said, it is imperative for us to understand how our demos change from one to the other. Maybe we're skewing younger on Twitter and we're skewing older on Facebook, and I'm just mentioning that. I'm not saying that's the case. The fact of the matter is your content's going to be far more effective and far more impactful if you can at least draw a line and understand where your value points are going to have their most success. So again, having the ability to at least look at that and understand that is imperative. Another very simple study that can be done in Engage, and one of the things you'll notice as I'm going through this, everything that I'm showing you is what I consider baseline reporting that we do through the Evaluate section. None of this is you have to have 5 weeks of working experience through all of the different analysis charts that are available in Engage121. These are very simple charts to set up, and charts that, to be quite honest with you, if you were to look at our training schedule that we have on a weekly basis, these charts are one of the topics of discussion that we train every week here at Engage121. So I would suggest that if anyone on this call is looking to understand how to build these and what the indices or triggers that are available through the application that make these reports available, please sign up for those sessions because it's a very easy learn. So again, understanding sentiment analysis, the funny thing here is whenever you talk about sentiment analysis, typically what you're saying is, well, sentiment analysis is how my brand is perceived in the social media. Well, yes, that's important. You want to understand that. But it's not just a sentiment analysis for you, it's a sentiment analysis for your competitor, okay, which is a really easy tie-in. But then the other one is industry. You know, are you pitching a message that is defining yourself within industry, or is it out of industry? How are customers responding to you versus maybe an industry body, an association? All of those things can be critical to understanding your marketing efforts through social. Here's a really interesting chart. These charts actually are not in Evaluate right now, but are available to all of our clients. This is an example of one of our clients' snapshot on their Twitter account. So let me define that. So we decided to take a certain period of time. I believe this study is over a 30-day period, but please don't quote me on that. Over a 30-day period, the folks or individuals who were speaking about your brand on Twitter. Okay? So what we did is we took that audience and we ran them against our database and came up with demographics and very interesting information on those folks, on the individuals who are physically mentioning your brand. I got to tell you, I certainly want to know the makeup of the folks who are speaking about my brand. And essentially what you're looking at here are a couple of charts which are focused on two things, occupation and where they shop. That's actually a pretty cool one. You know, understanding some of the things that are positioned over there on the right, you know, their gender, their occupation, their location. The the things and the demographics that make up my Twitter audience, or specifically the Twitter audience that speaks about my brand, is exciting information. And as a marketer, I can only say what I had to go through in the past to generate this type of information was fairly elaborate and fairly costly. This is available to every client for one account to them now. This is available to them now. So this is another one of those things where if you're interested in understanding how this works, you definitely want to contact customer service to talk about how we can do these types of spills and demo studies for you as well. Again, not a brain buster here, but a very simple task that folks just leave to the wayside and don't look at. We noticed that the folks who do these types of studies that you're seeing here on this slide can get great use out of it. So in this example, what we're essentially trying to say is, what are your customers like and what they don't like? And male versus female in this particular study via each brand. So if you are servicing multiple brands and you're looking for a simple study on the females versus the males, or this age group versus this age group versus these brands in the social media. And I realize you probably have all these demo studies offline, but I got to tell you, what's happening online, specifically within social, is becoming more and more relevant. So understanding how they react to your brands at this level through social is vitally important. A very simple chart to put together in Engage121, but again, extraordinarily important to your business as well. Here's one of the simplest of all of them. We just finished up a study with Social Flow. I think if you folks remember a few weeks back, we were talking about the results of our Social Flow optimization, or our content optimization partnership with Social Flow. We proved through Social Flow that can work. You can certainly optimize your content. But let's take one step back from Social Flow. While Social Flow is great at optimizing content, I think what might be fairly more critical is understanding what content is effective. So if I'm building a content portfolio for, I don't know, Facebook versus Twitter, as we were talking about earlier, understanding our different audiences, or different brands or different time frames, I certainly want to understand at post level what my insights look like. I want to understand what content is impactful and what content is actually generating some form of result. Again, what's shown here, a very simple chart to set up to explain what content is relevant. An incredibly valuable resource that can be easily overlooked for more advanced stuff through Evaluate, but honestly, in my opinion, one of the most important things you can do. And then lastly, as I told you, we're not going to make this a really long webinar today. This becomes sort of the culmination of the efforts of what Evaluate can accomplish. What we're showing you here is an example of one of our clients and the roll-up reporting that is critical to them. So I'll explain like this. So this is an organization that has a corporate office supporting a distributed presence. So their corporate folks are looking at all of their different clinics, which is what you're previewing here. And what was imperative to them is, yes, they want to see the social efforts of these folks. So they're going to look at reporting as it relates to each individual outlet. And I define outlet by a specific location or a rep, anyone who they're cashing into this report. This is the way they needed to view those folks in a roll-up fashion. So what Engage121 is really good at doing is customizing what type of view and reporting structure that is relevant to you and your business. Again, as you look through this report here, they're not only looking at their interactions, they're looking at their growth, they're looking at the important metrics that, as they defined in their business plan, are relevant to understanding the success of social. So I would urge you folks on the call that if there is reporting, if there's roll-up reporting, if there are things that you have not developed and Evaluate or would like to develop and evaluate, we strongly suggest you do one of two things. One, get in there and familiarize yourself with it if you haven't. Two, and probably the more important part, is please contact our customer service folks. They'd be more than happy to work through this with you in order to get you where you need to be. So with that, I want to thank you for jumping on the webinar today. I know Jenny, I can hear over there answering questions for folks, and she'll continue to do that. And I'd like to remind everyone again that if you have feedback, you can reach Jenny directly, or you can tweet us at Engage121. We're always available. Customer service is always available. And I think that's just going to about do it for today. Thank you again. Again, if you have any follow-up questions, and we're always interested to hear what you'd like to hear. As I said before, these are typically update calls where we're updating you on application enhancements. But if there are sessions you'd like to hear from a marketing perspective, much like today, please let us know that as well, and we're more than happy to oblige. So guys, thank you. Have a great weekend, and we will speak to you next week. Thanks.